Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Heavyweights Podcast. In one corner, standing at 6'3", 290 pounds of solid chicken wings, Dustin Urban. And this corner at 6'7", 280 pounds, the one, the only, Big Daddy Nick Klein.
Welcome back, everyone, to episode 8 of the Heavyweights Podcast. I'd like to thank everyone that's been listening the last few weeks. I know we've already made it to 8 somehow, and for some reason people still keep listening.
It's been a good ride.
It's been a really good ride. We've got a huge slate to go over this week with some news happening today and over the last week in general, but for some reason we're still going to keep doing it. We're going to start off with the XFL. Please don't make this long.
First kicking off, we got Seattle Dragons versus the Houston Roughnecks. Seattle's defense came to play in this one overall throughout the game. They gave Houston the most resistance they faced all season, but the Roughnecks quarterback turned it around after 3 early turnovers. Seattle took a 14-0 lead, but Houston battled back to tie the game at the half. Seattle got the lead again in the third quarter, 23-14, but in the fourth, Houston took the lead and ended up winning this one 32-23. Houston remains undefeated at 5-0 now, and Seattle plummets to 1-4.
I mean, they're probably not going to lose a game. Walker's still the best quarterback in this league by far.
Yeah, him and Cam Phillips got off the schneid after last week, and he's the best receiver in the game, too.
He'll get a camp invite for sure.
Then we move on to the New York Guardians versus the Dallas Renegades. Dallas went in a different direction at quarterback this week with the debut of Philip Nelson. Turns out he's not any better than Landry Jones, though. Nelson threw 2 picks on the day. Dallas couldn't get anything going offensively, really. Running game just wasn't there this week for them. Then New York, they switched quarterbacks last week as well to Luis Perez from the shit show known as Matt McGloin. Perez did enough to win the game this week again for them. They ran the ball okay, New York did, but still, the defense is the biggest story for the Guardians. They ended up winning this one over Dallas 30-12. New York jumps to 3-2. Dallas stumbles to 2-3. Then we go to the DC Defenders versus the St. Louis Battlehawks. Most boring game I've seen of the XFL season so far, and that's really saying something. Jarrell Presley ran for over 100 yards for the DC Defenders. Cardell Jones was benched early in this one again after going 0 for 2 in an interception. Tyree Jackson took over for the Defenders. They ended up coming up with the win in this one, 15-6, but Jackson doesn't look like the answer going forward either. DC moves up to 3-2. St. Louis is now 3-2 as well with the loss.
Pretty sure DC said they were still going with Cardell Jones going forward, too.
Yeah, I mean, if you watched what I watched, there's no way Tyree Jackson should even be on an XFL roster, let alone a fucking.
And one of the teams, I don't know who it was, just cut former first-round pick by the Ravens, Matt Elam, last week, too, and who was leading their team in tackles, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know I forget what team it was, but that's a head-scratcher as well.
Yeah.
Must have been some personal reasons. But then we got the last game of the weekend, LA Wildcats versus the Tampa Bay Vipers. Josh Johnson threw an opening play interception, and then Tampa Bay ended up making it 17-0 to start the game. But then the Vipers showed their true colors. Blew the lead.
True colors.
I don't know if it was all Tressman here, but Josh Johnson rebounded, ended up throwing 4 touchdowns on the day. L.A. got this one 41-34. L.A. climbs to 2-3, and Tampa Bay drops to 1-4. So, really, we didn't learn much from this week in the XFL. It's still an up-and-down league, but one thing we do know, the Tampa Bay Vipers fucking suck.
Yeah, I mean, they're garbage.
Yeah. At least the 3rd best team right now.
They have the worst record in the league, Josh.
Yeah, they played 3 of the hardest teams and barely lost.
They played one of the hardest teams and barely lost.
Just played L.A.
LA's 2-3. LA's 2-3.
He's just going to keep throwing out random.
I don't give a fuck what he says. I got an answer for it. Like, come on, dude.
He's already convinced in his fucking head, he's already convinced that he's right, and there's nothing you can do. You can put all the stats in front of him and lay out everything of why he's wrong, and he's still just going to see, like, bright, smiley faces and be like, dude.
Tree of growth to the XFL Championship. Vipers.
All right, let's get over the XFL.
They're not making the playoffs.
They even have a playoffs?
Yeah, they have a playoffs. So
I'm assuming just half the teams make it. It's just the top 4.
I hope. Who cares though?
I hope everybody gets it.
Let's get on to real football news here. Out of New York, Quinn Williams, he got caught with a handgun. Silly fucker. All right, Reese. But he got caught with a handgun. Luckily for him, it wasn't loaded and the Jets. But he did have a permit for it, but it's in Alabama, so that really doesn't matter in New York. They got some pretty strict gun laws. But at the end of the day, he's looking at a few fines, but just another stumble for the Jets here.
Yeah, I just don't get, like, I read the post, and I was like, all right, he's got a Glock 19. He's registered in Alabama. Okay, that's smart. But was he getting into New York or coming?
I don't know if he was. I think he was picking somebody up at the airport or something. I don't know.
No, he checked into the airlines. I just didn't see it all what happened. But, like, I get you check your bag in. You don't have the ammunition with you. It's unloaded. But, like, why? Why even just risk it at this point?
Yeah.
Because you clearly packed it onto your carry-on.
Hey, at least he didn't cheddar bob himself like Plaxico Burress, but we got that.
Yeah.
Then another big story of the weekend, Josh Norman signed a 1-year deal with the Bills for $6 million, and he's probably going to be a pretty good fit there.
A pretty good fit. He's not even going to start.
I mean,
I agree with that. He's washed up.
Start.
No, Norman will maybe play slot. Do you know how bad he's been the last 2 years?
but he's not going to be on a slot receiver.
Where are you going to put him? He gave up.
He's going to have to be he's going to have to be guarding the number 2. Like, he can't guard a slot receiver. He's not.
You got Tre'Davious White
not a
and Levi
cover
Wallace
guy.
there. They've got two decent, one great corner in Tre'Davious White, and Levi Wallace was serviceable last year. But last year, Norman was targeted 46 times, gave up a 67% completion percentage.
But he's guarding the number 1 guy.
He didn't. He only played 12 games last year. Only started 8. He wasn't their number 1 receiver even in Washington last year. He also gave up 7 touchdowns. He's given up 15 over the last 2 years. He's not good anymore. Oh yeah, he's not good anymore.
He was overrated when Washington even signed him. In my opinion, I don't think he deserved that contract.
He wasn't overrated.
He wasn't overrated when he signed that contract.
You have to pay corners.
He was one of the
That's
top
your
5
position.
corners in the game at that point.
Yeah. He's just, it's not, I get you want to reunite him with Sean McDermott, who was his head coach when, or not his head coach, his D coordinator when he had those few good years.
That's why I was saying he's a good fit.
It's worth the flyer, but it's not like, oh my God, their defense got even better. It's
No,
Josh Norman's
but-
trash.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's great, but he'll be able to. He knows the scheme, so he's going to be all right.
You would think. I mean, I doubt he sticks through the whole year. I mean, we'll see, but
Maybe he pulls Avonte Davis, retires at halftime of a game.
I don't think any player will ever do that again.
I'll make another $100 bet if that happens.
I'm not.
I'd make a bet that Josh Norman starts more than half the games this season for him.
I'll take that.
What do you want to do, $10?
That's fine.
All right.
That's
I
not.
bet you gets cut out of camp.
He won't even start one game, but we'll go with half.
I've lost $10 before.
Okay. Moving on. The CBA, they extended the voting. It closes at midnight 11:59 this Saturday night. They promoted a new NFLPA president, CJ Treader. He is the center for the Bengals, I believe. He's in
Browns.
favor. Is it the Browns?
Browns.
He's in favor of the vote with we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. I don't know where you stand, but I looked at Eric Reed's statement today. I know that Richard Sherman, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers have all been against getting this through. I don't think there's a chance though that it doesn't not get passed, because what it's seeming like is like the lower end roster guys are loving this deal just because of the extra money.
Yeah, they bumped it up for the lower guys in the end. But we all know this is a stars-driven leagues. But the way it's voted on, it's like, I'm pretty sure it's majority rules, isn't it? Like
They just have
they have the team representatives, and then they have majority.
Oh no! All players get a vote, and it'll go to the next level if 50% plus one vote approve this week. That's why players are
So
allowed to go.
it's based on all the players.
Yeah,
it's
it's
not
the
just based on the representatives.
No, and that's why they were talking today. Like the representatives were around because they want to talk, because each team has their own representative. They can get together and start
Push their
hashing out
narrative.
like what's going through. I don't think even if you're a bottom roster league player, I get the base salary's gone up, the practice squad's going to change, the roster size limit's going to go up, but you're probably going to have to, for another game, at least 5 more roster spots. Get rid of the inactive list. It's pointless anyway. But they've got to get something better, because over 10 years, that
They're shortchanging themselves.
Yeah, that 1.5% is not even going to be close to what the NFL alone brought in $33 billion this past year. Imagine what they're going to do in another 10 years because it's the most popular sport in North America now. I know it's still not anything compared to soccer
but worldwide, but
the market's getting bigger, and I know they want to follow the NBA's their plan basically of getting overseas, China and everything else, and they've thought about it. Obviously, we have the games in New Mexico every 4 years, and the games over in England.
But from what I read in the CBA, they'll be cutting down on some of the out of the country games a little bit.
Yeah, because the owners don't like having to give up an extra home game
Right.
Making the concession.
I mean, if you're not going to make the Jaguars the London Silly Nannies, then you might as well move on.
I personally don't think they should even entertain this, but it looks like it's going to pass. We'll know more next week and we'll go over it. There's also some other news. Trent Williams was given permission to seek a trade. I've got a few teams that I wrote down that would be perfect fits for. They need a left tackle.
I like the number one.
Yeah, Browns, the Jets, the Giants, the Bengals, Patriots, Bears, Rams, Seattle, Tampa Bay. But I have a feeling Trent's going to want to go to a contender. So you can knock out the Jets, the Giants, the Bengals, and maybe Tampa Bay. Depends on what he likes down there. What you're going to get for him, or what you're going to have to give up. I think it's going to be a second or third round pick. You're not going to get a first for Trent. He's 32.
No.
But he's still elite in this league, and it's still hard to find. I personally think the best fit, if he wants to win, you need to look in New England, depending on if Tom Brady comes back in Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many years Trent's got left on his deal there, but either way, Patriots, Rams, Bears, that would be my best fit for him. I like the Browns, but when you say contender, if he's looking to play for a contender, I don't consider the Browns a contender.
I agree. He's going to want to go to a contender, and he's going to want a contract extension too.
I mean,
they can work that out later.
Yeah.
You can still consider the Browns a contender just because of the sheer talent on their roster. If he goes in there and has a good meeting.
I'm just saying, I don't know what he thinks.
Yeah.
Does he consider the Browns a contender?
Well, I know for him, too, it's going to be having a good medical staff. Obviously, New England.
Well, you had Baker Mayfield and OBJ calling out the Browns medical staff last season. So
yeah, I know. So
that might be a...
Either way, if you're a team...
He'd be a good fit for the Browns, though. 100%. Any good lineman would be a good fit for the Browns.
And then they can still target another tackle in that first round if they want to go that route. And they can just slide them over like a Mekhi Becton or whoever's there.
Yeah.
Tristan Wirfs. Slide them to the right side until they're ready to switch over. But, I mean, you're not giving up a first like we've talked about. You're going to give up a second, or maybe you give up a package deal, a third and a fifth. You get something out of them because they're...
Maybe you can get somebody be dumb and give you a second rounder, but...
Well, the Jets got 2 third rounders, so
the Jets will give them both of those probably.
And then a stupid-ass contract extension. And
I don't think he'd go for 2 thirds, like a third and a fifth or a third and a sixth.
Well, I was saying if the Jets are making the trade, they're probably going to be like, here's our thirds.
Yeah, Gase is involved, but Gase clearly has no desire to improve his offensive line play, so...
Right.
We'll just...
Then we move on to the retirement of Marshall Yanda. 8-time Pro Bowler in 13 seasons, one of 3 guards to win a Super Bowl, and at least 8 Pro Bowls. So other than him is Larry Allen and Alan Faneca.
2 Hall of Famers. He also made 7 All-Pro teams. He was on the first team twice, second team 5 times. I think that 8 Pro Bowls was in a 9-year span, too.
Yeah, he's a future All-Famer.
We talked about that earlier. It's going to be close. It takes guards a lot to get in. Tackles, if you're a premier left tackle, you're getting in real quick. I think so right now. I mean, we'll look at it probably when we do our end of the year Hall of Fame talks when we're getting into that game or starting the year. But I would say yes right now. I think the biggest reason for me, though, is because he went to a junior college before he went to Iowa, a place called NAC, which is where I played college football. So that's all I heard. He had just gotten drafted when I went out there to play, and that's all they talked about. But
yeah, I mean, hey, that Super Bowl ring really helps him, but it's all about Pro Bowls and all pros at the offensive line positions. And I'm not saying it'll be first ballot, but eventually he'll get in.
I mean, the only good news for the Ravens out of this is they're going to save $11 million in their cap space, which will help out. But I mean, they lost the centerpiece of that entire offense, that leader in the locker room. probably the voice of the entire offensive line. He was probably calling out coverages and zone schemes and everything else. So, I mean, that's a big loss. He was
especially in the locker room.
Yeah, he was set to make that $11 million because he signed a 1-year contract extension last year. And he went, the way they went on the Super Bowl, you would have thought he would want to come back, but he must have been just battling some injuries and just wanted to.
Yeah, it's a hard life to be a lineman. I'll give him that. But well, time to kick it to the questions of the week. What do you think?
Oh yeah.
Yeehaw!
Damn about them questions of the week, Travis.
You have them questions, then we have them answers. It's time for the questions of the week.
All right, let's kick it off with the first question this week. Pretty straightforward and simple. How did the Bears get back to the Super Bowl?
Well, I feel like they need to get some offensive linemen and possibly a fucking quarterback, but that's just me.
I mean, if your goal right here is to just get back to the playoffs.
The question is super.
I know, but
I got this.
The question is just to get back to the playoffs, you have to leave out Trubisky.
Yeah, you got to get.
Because you can get back to the playoff. You can get back to the playoffs with him just because of the sheer talent on the defensive side. To get back to the Super Bowl, you're going to need weapons. They have one solid receiver. They let go Taylor.
All right, tight end.
Taylor. Two. Who?
Miller. Miller in the slot is a lot better than he is as the 2.
Well, you let Taylor Gabriel go, which still shocks me because he still has some value with the way you can.
He's not the biggest loss in the world, though.
There's a lot of guys that can blow the top off of the defense. You can sign a lot cheaper, I think.
I wouldn't say. I mean, cheaper, but you're not going to get much out of the value on this wide receiver market's not great for what you want there.
You can fit somebody in there like a Brashard Perryman.
I mean, you can get somebody
they
else
can't
in the
afford
6th
it.
round if you're actually just looking for 4-4 or 4-2, whatever.
It just depends.
Speed is speed.
Are they getting a quarterback? Because if they're getting a quarterback, all their cap space is gone, really.
My thing is, this starts with the offensive line.
Yeah.
You
lost Kyle Long.
which wasn't much.
He's been injured forever.
Big locker room guy, though.
Yeah, okay, that's great, but he wasn't even a serviceable starter this year when he did play. Cody Whitehair took a step back, former second-round pick out of Kansas State, I believe. He is your leader on that offensive line now with a bunch of nobodies around him. You've got to get some help there. This draft class isn't the best in depth in later rounds because I know the Bears don't have. We'll get into their offseason topics here later, but for now, it's got to start with better offensive line play. I'm not sold on Nagy. We'll give him probably one more year and see where he goes. But he looked like he took a step back too, and he was supposed to be this offensive guru, and nothing's happened in the last 2 years.
To answer the question directly, how the Bears get to the Super Bowl this year with the ticking clock on the defensive side is you got everybody under contract. You know, Fuller was able to renegotiate to get Jackson, and you got Mack. To answer the question, you need Philip Rivers.
Rivers isn't going to go to Chicago, play outside in the cold with a terrible offensive line where he'll be sacked as much as he was, I think, 3 years ago.
I don't know. I like Rivers and Henry coming to the Bears. To answer that specific question,
Hunter Henry
for this year, yeah.
They just don't have the cap
space.
It feels you're right. I understand that, but I mean, there's ways to work around. I don't know what are the hit on those two guys specifically.
Well, it just depends on what they would sign for.
Exactly, and then it would be a kind of a come and win.
You would need at least $20 million to get Philip Rivers, and they only have 16. They could get to $20 million somewhere. They could move some shit around and get to 20.
Right,
but they wouldn't be able to pull both of them.
I mean, you could cut Burton, gone. I don't know what the hit is on this year, but you bring Henry in, you bring Rivers in. You're filling two big holes for right now offensive production.
You're not cutting Burton. He's a $9 million cap hit. It's not going to work. You can fantasize all you want. None of that's going to happen.
That's how you answer that question, though.
But
I don't think the Bears.
But to logically think that, you've got to consider. You have to try to convince yourself that Rivers would even want to go to Chicago, and he's not going to want to. His family just moved to Florida. Him and his 3,000 kids. He's not going to want to shovel them up to Chicago.
And I mean, did you watch Philip Rivers last year at all?
Yeah.
He was the main factor in them losing a lot of games.
So a lot of it was on him.
Yeah, I mean, the interceptions. I mean, the offensive line did not fucking help him at all.
He's not a big media guy. He's not going to want to be in the media. They're going to rip him apart. Andy Dalton would be a better fit in Chicago than Philip Rivers.
Trubisky's a better fit. Chicago than Philadelphia.
Chicago's not a good
wouldn't
fit.
go that far.
Trubisky's not a good fit any fucking way.
He is the
He'd be a
right
good
man
fit
for
in the
the job
XFL.
in Chicago.
Trash Bisky would be a fucking good fit in the XFL.
No.
You even said last week that you wouldn't even go with Trubisky when we had that new segment. Would you rather? You
Not
chose-
over Dalton.
You chose Dalton over Trubisky.
Yeah, I chose that in real life too.
All right. Well,
Is that proving my point? Because he just said
I
would
mean,
go with.
he basically did.
I'm just saying I'm taking Trubisky over Rivers.
All right, Reeves has
Right.
got this down.
You have Mitch than Rivers
Yes.
this season.
Yes.
One season.
Yes.
All right. But with our second question, what should the biggest focus for the Bengals be this offseason?
Revamping everything. You've got. We'll get into their offseason needs. Their biggest focus is that you don't have to spend a lot of money in free agency. I know they have some, but they generally don't. The owner is the GM also. But get some competition in there. You can get some starters, some depth. I'm not saying the second March 18th hits at 4 o'clock, you just signed
They're not going to be big players.
someone for
like the Jets are
4
gonna
years
try
and
to do.
$42 million. But you can get some offensive line help because no matter what you're taking Burrow, you're going to have to build around this dude.
You're going to have to give him some help.
Get some help up front.
Don't David Carr him like the Texans did.
You've got to be able to protect him. For them, I think it's just not doing what they've done the last 8 to 10 years and nothing in free agency. They've let some great players walk just because they don't want to negotiate. But you're willing to negotiate with AJ Green, but you won't with other players. It's
They're
just
gonna have to
they've got to
franchise
change.
tag AJ Green, probably.
Yeah, they will. I mean, there's no way around that. It's going to be all end all start with this offseason. Are they willing to help Burrow? And I hope they will.
We're going to find out
Right.
real quick.
That. Help Burrow out and protect him.
All right, the next question. Are the Packers close to a title run or are they wasting the prime years of Aaron Rodgers? I wouldn't say they're close to a title run. I know they just made the NFC Championship. They play in one of the toughest divisions in football. Rodgers didn't
Probably
look
second
great
toughest.
the first year in LaFleur's offense. We'll see if they can still commit to running the ball because they're clearly not getting him help unless they do in this draft. The defense is solid. I don't think they're still one of the better teams in the NFC when I look at them, and I could be wrong. But you can factor that into, are they wasting Aaron Rodgers for that in that amount of time? I doubt it because they brought in a coach that said straight up, I'm going to run the ball. Everything's going to be focused on the run when you have one of the best quarterbacks we've ever seen.
And they ran the ball pretty well last year. I mean, Aaron Jones had 17 touchdowns or something like that?
Yeah, led the league.
Led the league. And I don't think they're that far away, but they need a couple more players on defense. They need some cornerback.
They need to figure
help.
out how to stop the run.
Yeah.
We saw that
That
NFC
too.
Championship game.
They need to draft some couple linebackers. If they can't bring back Blake Martinez, if he's just wanting too much money, I think the main thing with Blake Martinez is why he makes so many tackles is there's not really many other people there. They don't get, besides the two outside rushers, the Smith brothers they signed, they don't get a whole lot of anything.
Well, that D-line, it's Kenny Clark,
He has his moments,
but he's not
but he's not elite.
I mean, he's not terrible. They've got Tyler Lancaster, who started. I can't remember the other guy's name, but they're because they run a 3-4. They don't produce anything up front. They don't stop the run. They don't get to
They're
the
just there to
quarterback
take
at all.
gaps.
But they're not even doing that.
Right.
I think outside of receiver, you focus on that either whether it be free agency,
Trade something.
trade, or draft. I mean, we'll cover that more later again, but I
think they're close. But you hit it right on the money. They need to focus on getting Aaron Rodgers more help at the receiver spot and be able to stop.
because at some point to win in the playoffs too, you're going to have to let him do his thing. You're going to have to put the ball in his hands to win, and he's got to have those weapons.
Yeah.
They were good last year. I thought they were closer to a 10-6 team than I think they went 13-3.
Yeah, they got lucky in a couple
Yeah,
of
so we'll see. I mean, they played in some close games. I mean, they started off the year, that offense didn't do anything for I think 3 or 4 weeks, and they just – I don't think the first time actually they went off was against Dallas on that Sunday afternoon game when Aaron Jones had 3 rushing touchdowns.
That was their biggest, yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the next question.
With no first-round pick, how can the Bears get better during draft weekend? Well, they got 2 second-round picks, so they can obviously trade into the first round if they have somebody they like, but they have a lot of holes, so they probably need both of those second-round picks to fill some needs.
Yeah, those second-round picks, there's a handful of receivers that are going to be there in the second round. As for offensive linemen in the second round, you're going to have like Andrew Jackson, USC, day 2 guy. He's a project, but you can put him in at right tackle, start him right away, or just let him bite the bullet and play left tackle. You can address some big needs. I'd say keep those second rounders as much as you can.
Yeah.
If you need to trade back, get another 4th or 5th there, go ahead and do that. I know Seattle did that last year.
Because they're picking pretty close. I think it's 43 and 50, so they could trade back. And
you need depth here this draft weekend. I wouldn't say you can say reaches all you want because you're going to get into that when you get into the later rounds. But the biggest thing is don't trade up into the first round unless you're absolutely in love with this player. Like, say, someone freakishly dropped, like Henry Ruggs dropped, or Chase on from LSU, or somebody like that drops. Then you got them so high on your board. If you just give up one of your second rounders and maybe a third, win.
But I don't see them trading up into the first round either, really.
Well, then what exactly would you consider them having a good draft weekend then?
Get 2 decent offensive linemen if you can. Like somebody that can just play, not be out there and just give up a bunch of fucking plays defensively. And then try to get some sort of a second weapon to go alongside Robinson. So
that's right. If you're going to label it like that, I get you're saying get 2 tackles.
Or just 2 offensive linemen in general. Yeah.
So
Ezra Cleveland.
If they come out of this with 2 legit starters,
they won their draft.
They won the draft. We can get depth all you want, get some roster guys.
I mean, I'd like to see them get more picks. So, like you said, there's a little bit more depth on the offensive line, which is probably their biggest need if you're going to pick a team on the team. So why not give up a 2, try to pick up another 4 or 5, or not really give up, but trade back and pick up a 4 or 5 if it gives you more competition in training camp, more young.
The only way I get a little nervous with that is because usually day 2 guys, second rounders, are usually guys that have high ceilings but bigger question marks, or their ceilings aren't as high but their floor is higher, and so they don't go in the first round because they're not a freak of an athlete like AJ Epinesa, who's going to fall to the second round now. Laviska Shenault from Colorado is going to fall. You keep those 2 second rounders; those are gold. Those should be your starters right there. And if you can find another gem later on, you're golden there. But it's got to be at least 2 starters coming from this draft, maybe more, and then some great special teams players. You've got to get depth, and you've got to hit your picks now because you wasted so much getting Khalil Mack that you've got to hit this draft.
I think Laviska Shenault, if he does fall to the Bears, I think that'd be a good spot for him.
I mean, there's a handful. I mean, Brady Ayuk, Jalen Reagor, Peoples-Jones. I mean, there's so many. We can talk about wide receivers all day.
They can get a wide receiver 5th, 6th round that could come in and play, but they need offensive linemen first and foremost. To me.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out, but I mean, that was actually a decent round of questions of the week this week. I think we had more input than we had in weeks past, so I'd just like to thank everybody out there. We'll be right back with our newest segment, Would You Rather? But first,
a word from our sponsor.
Hell yeah.
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let us explain.
It's free.
There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer.
Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more platforms.
You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership.
It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place.
Now download the free Anchor app and go to anchor.fm to get started.
And make sure you listen to the Heavyweights Podcast. All right, well, I think it's time for everybody's favorite segment, Would You Rather?
Let's get into it.
Oh yeah, it's that time of week again where we throw out 2 blind stat lines and let you pick the player you would rather start. Would you rather?
All right, for those of you that didn't listen in last week, you might be new to our podcast. Would You Rather is one of our newest segments. I'm going to take 2 blind stats. I'm going to take out the players' names and rattle off some stats. And then the guys that are in the studio are basically just going to argue back and forth of who they'd rather have. It's usually going to profile 2 players that are in a battle for starting, or maybe a free agent swap, or just better positions and starters somewhere. So, all right, so our first player A, we're going to go offensive line to start. Started 45% of his games over the last 4 years. His Pro Football Focus grade last year was 38.0, which is one of the worst starters in the league. Over the last 4 years, he averaged 62.8. Player B started 91% of games over the last 4 years. PFF's grade of 74.1, I think, was 13th at his position last year. And his last 4-year average from PFF was 67.1.
Player B all day.
Yeah, not much of an
Player B
Yeah,
all fucking day.
I'm gonna have to go with player B, but it sounds like both these guys suck ass.
All right, so I mean, this is for Bears fans. First player is Kyle Long.
Yeah.
Second player is Graham Glasgow. He started at left guard, right guard, and center. Started all 16 games last year for the Lions at center. He's a free agent this year. Not a lot of people are talking about that would be a solid fit. I know he started center last year, but he can come in and right away.
Where was he at?
Detroit.
Lions.
Okay.
Right there, baby. Come on.
What are you saying? He's going to the Jets?
Yeah.
They can't get every free agent.
I want them to get every
You
job.
can still hope for it.
Yeah.
Why are we talking about the Jets?
Because he
versus for the
fucking
Bears?
started pointing at his goddamn hat, acting like a care.
All right, we're moving on to the second player. All right, we're going with defensive players here. All right, so the first player, 30 total tackles last year, 2 tackles for loss, played 30% of the defensive snaps, or 36%, had a 1.5 sacks, and his pressure rate on the quarterback's own passing plays, 3.6% pressure rate. Player B, 60 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 60% defensive snaps played, had 4 sacks last year, but a 15.1 pressure rate.
I mean, I'm going with B here.
Yeah.
I don't.
B all day again.
I know I made these a little obvious.
but
All right, we're going with Green Bay here. Tyler Lancaster. He was in his second year out of Northwestern.
is that A?
That's A. He struggled quite a bit last year. Couldn't even get. I know we're talking about sacks right here, but even his pass rushing rate, I think, was way down. I didn't have time to type it in. Second player is Javon Hargrave, though, out of Pittsburgh.
He'd be a
who I
hell
forget-
of a fit for the Packers.
and you're probably gonna have to give him 8 to 10 million. You've got the cap space, maybe low balls. I mean, he would be a stud on that defensive line.
Yeah, he would.
Because
be
there's no
good
way
with the
Pittsburgh
Smith
can afford to bring
brothers.
him back.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh can't afford anybody. But yeah, I really like that.
All right.
Yeah, no argument here.
Right. I mean, I know this week the kind of stats weren't similar and close. I think I just focused on
Like
free agency.
three, we can get a little argument in here.
All right. Well, first player, player A, 68 tackles, 11.5 sacks, 16 tackles for loss, and 4 forced fumbles. His missed tackle rate, though, was at 15%, which was top 5 in the league.
Sold.
Sign him up for the Jets, right?
No, I gotta see who it is.
I'll take A for sure.
Yeah.
Player B had only 34 tackles, but he had 9.5 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, and 2 forced fumbles. His tackle rate, though, his missed tackle rate was only at 2.9%.
I feel like one of these are fucking Dante Fowler.
No.
Okay. I'm going player A.
A.
I'll go with B.
Why?
I don't like guys that miss a lot of tackles. I don't know exactly what position he plays, so it could be a defensive lineman.
These are outside linebackers, and I'll tell you this. Player A is probably going to want 10 to 12 million a year. Player B, probably you can get away with 4 to 5.
Well, that's a big factor there. I mean, we factor the cap in. Well, I mean, you got to look at like what the metrics are on the percentage of a missed tackle. Like, is this guy just getting? It looks like he might just be getting to places he's not expected to be.
No,
I mean,
Pro Football Reference rates that as if you are within, I think, a 2-box yard of
Right.
a defender and you make an attempt to tackle
Yeah.
and you miss.
Right. I mean, so
50%
but maybe
a lot.
player B, it's just not
It's
even
just
getting
not
close to
getting
the play.
It
I
could
mean,
be.
this guy's still outproducing him.
Could be,
almost.
or-
he doubled his
I mean,
tackles.
15% is astronomically high, though. You want,
Yeah.
I'd have to look up. That is not good, no matter how you want to
He
spend it
diving
yourself.
his head into the ground
it could
first.
be skewed. Is the only point I'm trying
Well,
to
let's
make.
see who the players are, and we'll
All right, the first player is Bud Dupree.
okay.
I highly doubt you know who player B is then. Mario Addison.
Yeah,
Oh, from Carolina, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
thinking Bud Dupree.
I'm taking Addison, man. I
For $4 million.
Now
Well, think of it this way.
leave the money out of it.
Pittsburgh's going to be able
I
to
like-
re-sign or be able to bring in a guy like Addison who maybe only get 1 or 2 years because you're riding right now Ben Roethlisberger's coat waves. I know Tomlin did a phenomenal job last year, but you've got everything's going to base off his health this year. If you just want to revamp for 1 to 2 years, I mean Dupree has been okay. But
That was Dupree's
he's
best year of his career.
and you're scared as shit about that, but he is not a good open field tackler.
No, and he's on the defense with T.J. Watt, So his 11.5 sacks are him not being anybody's focus. They probably fucking left him unblocked 90% of the time.
He's still being on the defense,
Well, he's got
P.J. Watt.
Stephen Tuitt, and he's got Javon
he's
Hargrave
not.
last year.
No.
And
Watt's
they've
going to be
also
there.
got,
Bud Dupree's going to be. He's a free agent, and
Hayward.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh does not have cap room to sign him. But
No, they've made it very clear they want to bring back Bud Dupree, and they'll be able to work some stuff out.
I don't think he's going back there though.
I don't mind Bud Dupree, but like pulling his stats for someone who's going to get maybe a quarter of what he gets per year. If I'm the Steelers, I look at that just for a 1 to 2 year gap placement.
My thing is, you put Addison on the Steelers instead, and leave the money out of it. Put Addison on the Steelers. I guarantee you, his sacks go up, and his tackles for loss go up. So, and he's probably not missing fucking 50% of his tackles.
I mean, I agree with that, but at the same time,
what I'm
16
saying.
tackles for loss. I mean, what's the percentage on a losing play of getting a first down on that drive?
Right, I
mean,
get
that's 16
No, I get.
drives.
I'm not like standing on the fucking table for him or nothing, but I like what I picked. That's all I was saying.
All right, last one. Going back to the offensive line. First player, 66.9 Pro Football Focus grade. He's had 11 flags called on him last year, penalties. He's averaged 10 per year for the last 4 years, and then averaging 4 sacks given up per year.
Jesus.
Player B, 75.6 Pro Football grade last year. 12 flags last year, averaged only 6.75 though over his last 4 years he's played.
He had a rough year.
Yeah, and then he gave up 1 sack last year, or the last year he played, but he's averaged about 1.25 given up a year.
Is B Conklin?
No.
I'm ready with player B.
Conklin never gets flags taken on.
Okay, all right.
Decker.
I'm
is the
going
one you're
with B.
thinking of.
Yeah, I'm going with B. I don't like either one of them, but I'll go with B.
You don't like either one of them?
I mean, I
I
don't
think
like.
the second one's going to surprise you.
I don't like the number of flags.
Yeah, I mean, that's alarming. It could have just
For
been.
one season, it could be an anomaly, but
Well, they're offensive tackles here. I'll tell you that, which it's easier to get a flag called you out there, especially if
Right.
you're not quick with your hands. Player A, though, is Greg Robinson, which for some reason the Browns decided to bring him back last year. Then he was like, look at me, I have 500 pounds of weed in my SUV, and I'm going to prison.
right, poor guy.
Trafficking.
I mean, he's
What an
done.
idiot.
I mean, he's been given every chance. That's fine. Player B, though, is Trent Williams.
Okay,
Ooh.
So that's the last year he played.
so that was 2 years ago.
That's I kept saying the last year he played.
Okay.
So
Yeah, still taking Trent
I mean-
over Greg Robinson.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
Robinson had a better year for himself last year, minus the flags, like only giving up 4. But just 2 years ago, he gave up 11. So I mean,
right.
he's not been worth. I think he was taken second overall by
The Rams.
Rams.
Yeah.
It wasn't there. Trent Williams, though, I mean, I'm absolutely giving up a second or third round pick for that because you know you're at least going to get 2 to 3 more years out of him like that. You've seen guys like Jason
either
Peters.
One of these guys.
Yeah.
I fucking shit the bed on that one.
Do you say the Bears give up one of their second round picks, or are they better off with youth there to win this year?
If they want to win this year, if their goal is just to get back to the playoffs, then
I'd
might as well. I
I'd
mean,
go
you might,
3 and a 6. If I don't think the Washington Redskins would take that, but I'd offer that.
I mean, at this point, they might take anything because they know he's not. He's more than willing to sit out.
Because the Bears got 2 6-round picks. They don't have a 4th. They have a 5th.
No, they just got
They got a compensatory.
yeah.
It wouldn't be a bad idea.
Today,
It'd be a
they
bad
got a
idea.
4th rounder today.
I'd go 3 and a 6 and see if you could steal him from him. He'd look good for the Bears.
I mean, we could talk about them if we just want to get into our offseason fucking recaps. You two can just keep
No, we're
Googling
just
each
talking about
other.
Trent Williams, motherfucker.
A little segue.
All right, let's start off with the AFC North then, because I'm tired of talking about the Bears. The Bengals 2-14, the absolute trash of the entire league. They've got $44 million in cap space, 16th overall there. This, like we talked about earlier, this be all ends all starts with drafting Burrow, build around him. You're bringing back AJ Green. My question here, though, is you do have some flexibility. Do you bring back Eifert and say, fuck it,
No.
give him 1 more year,
No way.
$3 million, $4 million,
would.
just to put him around Burrow?
Maybe, but I just don't like him. I mean, I like his production years ago, but over the past 2 years, he's been maybe 2 out of the last 3 years, actually, really. He's been injured a lot.
Well, one was just a snap fucking leg.
Right, but he still hasn't shown you any sort of
He
production.
hasn't been able to stay healthy, I think,
And-
since 2016.
Yeah, and when he has been on the field, he's not really producing. So you could go get
Cole Kmet or something.
or well, even sign a fucking Jimmy Graham who can't stay healthy, but he'd be a big target in an end zone for a young quarterback. So
you can bring in Eric Ebron then if you want to.
right, and they might be like. If the Bears had more fucking cap room, I'd say Eric Ebron fits there, but they don't have cap room. So
well, he's not going to get the money he wants just because of the way he walked out last year.
He quit on the team.
Was a bitch.
Fuck him.
All right. Well, another person they got to let walk to me is Nick Vigil, their starting linebacker.
Yeah,
you're going to look at his stats like, oh, he had 111 tackles. He missed 16% of his tackles last year.
Right.
Like he should have been in the 140s, 150s at that point. He is a liability in coverage. I think he had so many tackles last year because we saw that defense and that offense. It was trash. My biggest thing here, though, which I don't know what you think, it's time to trade Geno Atkins. Dude's 31. He just made another Pro Bowl. Get something out of him while you can because he is on this steep downcline of his career. If you can get even a third or fourth, I know fans are going to be pissed, especially if a Bengals fans listening to this. Get all the draft capital you can now because your rebuild starts now.
Yeah, I could see that.
And these windows are so small.
Even Carlos Dunlap, I mean, he's not as old. Yeah. But if you're looking to rebuild, those are two people you could trade and get some assets for.
And then you've got Jonah Williams, who didn't play at all last year as a rookie. He was the 10th overall pick out of Alabama. He's going to be your starter on the left side from day one. You've got Trey Hopkins, the only other starter that had a Pro Football Focus grade over 65. Ooh. Is their starting center because they drafted Billy Price a few years ago. He's garbage, got benched last year. But
need another weapon
with those two solid pieces.
John Ross sucking ass.
Yeah, I mean maybe he's a late bloomer like Tyler Boyd, but he hasn't shown any promise at all. Their offensive line, you've got to protect. I still think you've got to protect Burrow no matter what.
I mean, if you're drafting him number one, you better fucking build around him.
They might have had more starting offensive lineman combinations last year than anybody else in the league, too. I know they were ravished by injuries up front, but they just are not a good unit anymore.
Learn from the Colts. Learn from the Redskins. You better protect that fucking franchise quarterback when you draft him number one, number two overall, because if you don't...
Why are we learning from the Redskins?
Because neither one of learn from them because neither one of them ever fucking blocked for RG3 or Andrew Luck until it was too late for Andrew Luck.
And you got decent pieces right now at the wide receiver spot. Yeah, build that offensive line.
You got all your draft picks, so you better figure it out.
I like what you said. Trade Geno and Carlos Dunlap and try to get some draft capital out of them while they're still there.
Dunlap, I mean, had a solid season last year.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah, I mean, he's 32, but...
Then we're going to the second to worst team in the division.
Man, that's cool.
Sorry, I thought
that's cool, man. No, go ahead.
Then we're going to the second to worst team in the division, the Cleveland Browns. They got $62 million worth of cap space. They don't have a lot of big-name free agents.
Yeah, they do. Greg Robinson.
Okay.
Joe Sherbert.
It's a big name now.
I said they don't have a lot. I was getting to Joe Sherbert. Actually I was. He's probably my favorite player on their defense besides Myles Garrett.
You got Demarius Randall, who's a free agent for him, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's as Joe.
He's all right.
I mean, that's just a depth player. You need to get safety help here if you're the Browns. I know offensive line's going to be an issue, but they need...
Is Hyde still safety over there?
No. They could look at signing someone like Trey Boston, bring him in. I don't know how he hasn't gotten paid because he's had a couple good years getting these one-year deals. You could look at Anthony Harris from Minnesota. It'd be a hell of a starter to go back there. Maybe Clinton Dix if the Bears let him walk, which
looks like they're going to.
I would assume they would just because they could probably get someone like an Anthony Harris or Trey Boston for a little cheaper than what wants, and they're both better players than him. But if you get some help on that back end of the defense and up front, Baker's got to look better next year. I mean, he had, like a 58% completion percentage this year.
Right.
He looked rattled. Get healthy and see what this team can do. They're in a limbo right here. You've got the 10th overall pick, offensive line right there. Whoever's there, the best tackle you can get, take him right there. And then you can sign Joe Thuney or bring in some other guys up front if you want, or you can do the draft route. It's just fix your patches right now and ride for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they got to fix that offensive line. Baker's got to definitely improve this year, and I think if you do give him an offensive line, I'm not the biggest fan on him. I think he could actually succeed with an offensive line that can hold it up.
I think he's a Pro Bowl type quarterback. He's just, second year, sometimes defenses start figuring you out. it's a mess over there anyway.
Plus all the turmoil that was going on.
Yeah,
with that
Kitchens
team. It's hard.
doesn't need to be there.
That was a terrible
Landry,
hire in the first
Odell.
place.
So it's just see what you can do. I know this is a tough division because the next two teams are going to compete because the Steelers finished third or second technically in the division at 8-8. Tomlin did a hell of a job with this team.
He should have been Coach of the Year.
The problem here is though he was up for Coach of the Year, dumbass. Anyway, they only got $1.5 million in cap space. 31st. You got 3 starters on that team right now that are free agents coming up. We talked about Bud Dupree, Javon Hargrave. We've talked about him, and then they've also got their right tackle, Matt Feeler. You're gonna have to. Are you gonna let them walk?
I think you let them walk. I mean, Steelers do pretty damn good at drafting. So
Offensive line's kind of hard to feel there.
they don't have a first round either.
Yeah, Feeler played 100% of the offensive snaps last year. He was basically an undrafted free agent that they found, got him on the practice squad, and he ended up starting 2 years ago and looks great. No one's really talking about him, but he could command $5 to $6 million. Other than that, though, I mean, you're going to have to rework around the cap space, but you're going to need cornerback help. This draft doesn't really have it only at the top, and those guys are going to be gone in the first round. You shipped off your first rounder for Minka Fitzpatrick, which was it's a smart move because
It was a good move.
That was a damn good move because first round draft picks are still just lottery picks, basically.
Right.
Like you're just doing a scratch
And
off.
he proved that he was worth the pick.
Yeah, I mean, but you also, in my opinion, you need receiver help and O-line help now. I mean,
They do really good at drafting receivers though later. I mean,
and they've got some. I mean, this draft we can talk about it all day. It's so deep.
There's receivers for days.
It's just
Get some offensive line help and try to replace.
well, let's see
Javon
how
Hargrave's like.
let's see how Roethlisberger elbow is too. That's a big concern.
Right? Yeah. I mean, you're gonna.
I mean, that defense will keep getting better. They're young.
he says he wants to play a couple more years, but we'll see what he looks like.
I mean, it all depends on what he looks like this year, but then you're still going to have to go into next season. Which Big Ben's going to
Right.
show up at the press conference, Chunky Ben, and retire, or is it going to like not?
Yeah, I mean, they don't got a lot draft wise. They got a second, a third, and 2 fourths, so
It'll be fine.
they can fill some holes, but
Yeah.
we'll see what they do.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's going to be chasing the Ravens though in this division. I mean,
As they should be.
yeah, I mean, they went 14-2, lost the first playoff game, but they've got $30 million in cap space, which sounds like a lot, but I mean, they still got a young team and some pieces. I mean, you got to think you got 2 more years until Lamar's got to be re-signed.
Yeah.
He's going to be paid. You've got Matthew Judon and Jimmy Smith, though, free agents. Those are 2 starters. You're going to have to let them walk because Judon's going to get paid somewhere. And I think they're going to look more towards the edge rusher in the draft there to replace him. And then you've got Yonda retired today, so what the hell do you do at guard?
mean, that's a big hole, man.
And you can, and with that, I mean, you still need pass rushing help, and you need wide receiver help. I wouldn't be surprised though if they go after Jordan Hargrave in free agency, though.
Yeah, I mean they're doing pretty good draft wise too. They got their first or second, 2 thirds, and 3 fourths. So they're going to be able. They're going to be fine. They're going to be able to fill some holes. But I'll be interested to see, since the way that playoff game played out in this division. Really, the only team I see that can use that formula to the biggest, or really use that formula Tennessee showed you to slow down the Ravens is the Browns with Nick Chubb. If they can get an offensive line, run the ball consistently, they could challenge the Ravens, but that offense is just
Nick
fucking
Chubb
dynamic, man.
almost 5
You're
yards
not-
to carry last year as it was.
Yeah.
I think the Steelers, they got to find their running attack again if James Conner can stay healthy.
Are we talking about the Ravens?
We're just talking about it. They can give the Ravens a run.
The Ravens are going to win this division next year for sure, probably. But
I think the Steelers will.
all right, well,
We'll get into that later. We still have free agency and the draft to go through. But
Ravens got a lot of draft picks, so they're going to be able to fill some holes. But
Yeah.
now let's move on to the NFC.
all right, with our first team in the NFC North, we got the Lions. They came in last in the division. I think they were
3-12-1.
3-12-1. Got that. Who they tied with the Cardinals early
Week 1.
on. Yeah, I
Should have
mean,
won, I believe.
a lot of holes on the defense.
Well, when you tie, it means the scores are the exact same.
They
And
blew a
so
big lead. Yeah,
each
fuck.
team can say at some point,
They
we should have
blew
won.
a fucking big lead.
Keep talking.
They got a lot of holes on the defensive side of the football and the offensive line, but you're looking Ashawn Robinson. He had like one good
Deuces.
Yeah, he had one
One good year. He's had 4.5 sacks over 4 years, and he only played
That's what I'm saying. He had one like decent year though.
4.5 sacks over 4 years. No, he had his highest tackle the season was 40th this year, but he still only played I think 60% of the snaps. Not good year. There's a reason why he dropped out of that first round and fell to the second. He had potential. Just the only cool thing about him was his like draft combine picture with his beard that's been turned into like a meme everywhere.
And you got Mike Daniels. He didn't work out.
Deuces, he's old.
Damian Harrison, Snacks.
Good old Snacks.
Do you look to bring him back?
It depends on what he's going to command. He's a big boy.
He's a
Did
guy.
they cut him?
No,
No, this
I
is
thought they cut him.
I don't think so. But either way, gonna have to fill the whole defensive tackle. There's
Yeah,
three
you're
guys,
right.
number one right there off the board. So we'll see what they do there. Holes all around on the secondary. What are you gonna do with Darius Slay? Are you gonna
They're gonna
trade
trade
him?
him.
So you'll
Meanwhile, this is also the same team that has to pay Trey Flowers freaking $11 million this year, and he only had 7 sacks last year.
Yeah.
That contract he signed was huge, and he's not lived up to anything.
It's typical New England player. They go somewhere else.
Lions looking to be last in the division again. They got their first round, second round. They got all their picks except for a 7th round. They have an extra 5th round, so see if they can fill some holes. But,
I mean, they can compete. They're bringing back Stafford.
right, and
You're gonna get one of
you
the
got
best.
Galladay and
You're gonna. I know at 3 there, you're gonna get, unless you trade back, you're gonna get Okudah or Simmons or your pick of any best player that's probably on your board outside of Chase Young. You can fix some holes like Isaiah Simmons would fix a lot of problems on that defense, straight up. Okudah would walk in right day one and be almost as good as Darius Slay. He's that good. It's seeing where Stafford is, but their offensive line, they're going to need some work because they're probably not going to bring back Graham Glasgow. I think they should, but we'll see. You've got your 2 defensive tackles, your rotators, and Ashawn and Snacks leaving. You've got some talented D tackles that you can get in the second round, maybe Rhys Blackman or Gillimore out of Oklahoma. It's just, is Matt Patricia the answer? Right now he's been garbage compared to what they let go in Jim Caldwell.
so it's a big year for him.
Do you
Since
guys
his last year.
Do you guys think he gets fired at the end of this season?
If they don't go at least 8-8, yeah, he's gone.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah, I agree with that.
Right, Nate, but
They can go 8-8.
I mean, even if they go,
This division's so up and down. There's rarely a repeat division winner in this. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if everything flipped the next year and then it flipped back. It's happened before. It's just you have 3 really good starters at quarterback in this division, and then you've got one shit show, but they've got a really good defense. So, I mean,
barring injury, I don't think the Lions are going to move up or down in this division. I think they're going to.
I don't think they're going to win only 3 games next year.
No, I'm not saying
They
that.
lost Kerryon Johnson, Stafford. I mean, they had some pretty big key injuries on the offensive side of the ball. People forget they almost beat Kansas City this year in the regular season.
I mean, the Colts beat Kansas City. They were still trash, bro.
True.
I mean, the Bengals won 2 games also. I mean,
It happens.
yeah.
I don't see them overtaking the Bears. I don't see them overtaking the Vikings. I don't see them overtaking the Packers unless there's a significant fucking injury on one of those teams. That's me. That's just me.
All right, well, let's start it off with the next team in the division. Who's their starting quarterback?
Trash.
Yeah, so anything can happen. So the Lions could easily jump him
yeah,
because the Bears went 8-8 last year. They've only got $16 million in free agency. That's 25th. They've got some key free agents. Prince Amukamara, probably going to let him walk at this point. You're going to have to keep Fuller. He was okay. Because he's going to want $3 to $5 million, and you just flat out can't afford it. Danny Trevathan, as many good years as he's had there, he's 31. He looks washed up.
Smith coming in. They're not going to miss a beat with Roquan Smith.
Yeah. And Leonard Floyd, who hasn't done
Health-wise or
anything, though.
Mental health wise.
also Trevathan just snapped his arm too. So let's see how
Who?
Danny Trevathan or
Danny Trevathan, who I just...
That's who we just were talking about.
Yeah.
I'm just saying he snapped his arm.
You got HaHa Clinton Dix.
Aaron Lynch, he came in a little bit and rushing
No,
passer.
I mean he's not what he was even 3 years ago.
No, I'm just saying he
was in
didn't
San
look
Francisco.
bad last year at
How do you
times.
pronounce
And then you're-
Ford's last name?
And then you got Rashad Coward is their only, I think, starting offensive lineman that's coming back. That's a free agent, and he was serviceable at times, I guess. But
Yeah.
I'm going to call it
he could
now.
be your good fifth or sixth or seventh
What
starter.
are you calling?
Vince Trubisky is going to be comeback player of the year and throw at least 30 touchdowns.
What's he coming back from?
His shitty year. This from on now.
I think he's thinking of most improved, and he just
Yeah, you're gonna cause
well, yeah,
to be a
most
comeback player of the year, you have to be like coming off of a long injury or like.
He got hurt a little bit.
I
He did a little.
mean, there's no. God damn it! It's not how. It's not how
I
comeback
can
play.
make a bet. I'll give you a bet. I bet Rivers throws more touchdown passes than Trubisky does next season.
I'll take that bet.
$10.
Done.
Done.
All right.
I love my bets.
Big thing is that they're bringing back Eddie Jackson.
Yeah.
Dude's a stud.
He's a
But who are you going to pair with him? You bring back HaHa, or do you go with
That's a good question.
Trey Boston or Anthony Harris? I'm trying to think of other. There's some other free safeties that can pair back there, but you've got to lock that down.
They like to steal Colts free agents. Maybe they throw Gathers back there, and but he's not. He's been a
Jack
question mark.
Logano has not been a bad defensive
Can they
player
afford
over
him?
Gathers isn't going to take much on the open market. He's
Pagano's been questionable at best as a defensive coordinator.
I mean, they didn't do bad last year with the Bears. Their biggest problem was offensive line play and Trash Bisky. So it's
I know, but they've still got Chuck Pagano calling defensive plays. And
Yeah.
Some of their zone schemes and coverages were suspect at best last year.
yeah.
But we can go back. I just want the offensive line. You've got Cody Whitehair, they're going to bring back as a starter at center, and then you've got James Daniels, who was their second round pick in 2018 out of Iowa, who started last year, showed some signs of improvement. So you've got 2 guaranteed starters going into next year. The hell do you do with everything else with no first round pick?
I don't know.
And you've only got $16 million.
They're
Draft.
they have to fill the offensive line holes through the
But
draft.
offense, I mean, you're looking at trying to get a right tackle,
They're going to
2
reach
guards.
on somebody.
You're gonna have to go to free agent route to get guards because you can draft a
Maybe
guard in
guards,
second or third round. It's gonna be hard for them to come in right away.
play.
You've already got a bad enough quarterback back there. You don't want to make it even worse with just not even helping your offensive line.
This is the Bears.
I still think you look at trading for Andy Dalton here. I think it makes complete sense here. He's used to playing outside in cold weather. He was a hell of a serviceable quarterback for years in Cincinnati when they basically were like, oh, you've got AJ Green. You don't need any more fucking weapons.
Yeah.
And he would get him there, but then he'd always get hurt or he doesn't show up in primetime games. But he is someone you can bring in, let him compete with Trubisky in camp for a starting job because Trubisky ain't gonna win that. There's no way.
Yeah.
And then
And-
you've got somebody who can't show up.
And then you,
primetime games.
and that way you
Yeah,
don't
I
have
mean,
to.
and the Bears are chock full of primetime games. Like,
That schedule hasn't come out with.
But,
I
I mean,
doubt it.
it's gonna
okay,
be-
primetime, big time games. How about big time games? They play the Vikings twice. They play the Packers twice. Those are 2 big time games every year, and if they can't beat one, if they can't split with both of them, they're not going anywhere.
No.
So, but I don't like Andy Dalton. I don't like Trash Bisky. I don't like the Bears. Period. Next year.
I mean, if they trot out Charles Leno, Rashard Coward, Bobby Massey, Whitehair, and James Daniels next year again, they're fucked.
Yeah, they're not, but they're not trotting them out. They're gonna have to do something.
And they're going to have to get all lucky.
Yes, they're gonna have to do something big.
They're in a limbo. They've spent so much money on that defense. And then, I mean, Trey Burton, you signed him to a ridiculous deal just because he had a good Super Bowl run.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I was really excited when we signed him.
He's an athletic specimen, but he's never done anything great. He was a backup, so
He was all right. His first year there in Chicago, he was okay, but last year he really
He just
let you guys
disappeared.
down.
First missed 2 games. He had really big games, and we thought we were going to give him the money.
it
Yeah.
happens a lot.
I mean,
Well,
other tight ends have blown up because Frank Reich was the offensive coordinator for the Eagles. Other tight ends have blown up in that system as well, such as Eric Ebron. He had an amazing year, and then last year he's just fucking disappeared. So it's a head scratcher with him for sure. But going to the third team, we're going with the Vikings here. They got $1.3 million in cap space.
They're dead last in the league in cap
Yeah,
space.
They're like the Steelers. They got a lot of.
It's a nightmare.
You got Everson Griffin as a free agent. He says
He's
he wants to
willing
come back.
They can work something out now.
But does somebody offer him a shitload of money?
I doubt it with his age. And he's so comfortable there. I mean, you've also got Dan Bailey, their starting kicker, up.
Yeah, he's up. You got Anthony Harris, who we've talked about.
He's not coming back.
He's not.
You've also got Mackenzie Alexander, their former second-round pick. He out of there. And then Trey Waynes is probably gone as well.
Yeah.
And those were two corners that ended up starting at some point last year because they had so many injuries to that secondary going into the playoffs.
Sendejo, their other starting safety?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they re-signed him because Philly cut him loose last year.
Yeah.
It says he's a...
Oh, yeah, he's back.
Because they got to figure out something because, I mean, they're in a weird spot because you don't have much cap space here. You want to make another run. How much you sacrifice this year? Because next year, you've got Dalvin Cook and Kirk Cousins contracts up.
I mean, if they don't go deep into the playoffs to even bring Kirk Cousins back, do you just look to move on to the future there?
I mean, you can, but he looked pretty damn good last year.
He looked all right. I'd like
He's a top
over
10 quarterback in this league.
Oh,
10?
I'll give
him top 10.
12.
I'll put him top 10. I don't agree with this. Some of
Maybe numbers, but I don't. I feel like I could name 10 people better than him.
Especially they don't have running backs in the backfield named Dalvin Cook right now.
Well, when Dalvin Cook was out, he didn't look good, which when you take a running game away from a lot of quarterbacks, they're not going to look fucking good. So I can spend that any way I want it. But they've got both their first and second round, 2 third-rounders. They don't have a fifth, but they have 4 seventh-round picks. So
I mean, they need help on the D-line. They need offensive guard help, cornerback help. I doubt this could happen because it'd be trading within the division, which those trades are so rare, but you could make a move for Darius Slay here, bring him in.
yeah,
You can't afford him. I don't know how that would even look on the salary cap, but I don't know what the hell they're going to do here. I know most teams, they'll figure out the cap space numbers, but with what they have up and their needs to make the playoffs again next year in a tough NFC and a competitive-ass division, there's too many holes here for me.
they're going to have to get worse to get better. I mean, they're not going to get better next year, but they're going to have to get worse to get better in 2 years, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it'll depend on the health of Dalvin Cook because this was the first year he stayed relatively healthy until the end of the year.
Yeah.
They've got enough weapons to win, and they've got a decent enough defense. They could go 10-6 next year and then just not get over the hump again, and then they're just kind of stuck in a limbo. We're a playoff team, but we're no more than a playoff team.
Maybe Cousins takes that next step. I don't know.
Looked good in the.
No, I'm just saying he's gonna have to be like a fucking MVP candidate for them to get anywhere where they want to be.
I know that he's going to have to do everything because that defense is about to give up 900 yards a game next year if they can't figure anything out there.
I think they take a step back next season.
Yeah, good for you. Let's go on to the division winner than the Packers. They finished 13-3.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
They got $20 million in cap space. They've got some. My biggest thing here is can they get as lucky as they did in free agency last year when they brought in Za'Darius and Preston Smith? There's no way in hell you get that lucky again because usually free agency is a patch. You see these teams that go out and spend big money like they did last year. It usually doesn't mean shit. We've seen the Eagles do it. We saw the Browns do it. We've seen the Jets do it. We've seen the Giants do it. I know Tampa Bay did it years ago with Deshaun Golson and Darrelle Revis. They spent like $64 million on those two. No. Shiano got his ass fired after that. Real quick.
Chop wood again somewhere else.
Yeah. I mean, I know they're going to be active in free agency. They always are. But you've got Brian Balaga leaving, or Balaga. Tremont Williams, he's out. Crosby's up, which 2 years ago I say there's no way in hell you bring him back, but
I thought they just restructured his deal, actually.
According to Over the Cap today, that he's done.
I thought they did too.
Yeah, I was pretty sure I saw that on ESPN a couple of weeks ago. It doesn't matter.
I could be. And then Blake Martinez, I think you let walk.
Yeah, you're going to have to.
You got a bigger need at defensive tackle and other positions that I don't think you can shore up that much money in all your linebackers.
I mean, if you're going to bring back anybody out of...
They restructured him for
they got him for 3 years.
Okay.
If I'm bringing back anybody on this list here, it's Balaga. Like, he's really... don't overpay him, but you can get him for 8.
He's a right tackle. You can probably get him cheaper than that. He's getting older.
I think it'll take
maybe get him on like a 2-year deal or something. But he's getting old. But he's a good locker room guy, and he knows their system, and Aaron Rodgers trusts him. And Aaron Rodgers has shown he doesn't work that well with younger guys. I mean, the receivers they brought in this year, they did all right with them, but he doesn't like younger, non-veteran guys. Him and Mercedes Lewis clicked somehow. I didn't think I could ever say that, but him and Mercedes Lewis, whenever Jimmy Graham wasn't playing, he was using Mercedes Lewis as his not his number one go-to, because obviously that's
So you can say a security blanket.
his security blanket. Yeah. Couldn't figure that one out. But.
Yeah, I mean, they need help. My needs for them are defensive line. They need all three. You could replace even Kenny Clark if you got a better upgrade, but both of your 3 and 5 techniques have got to get better.
Will Rashawn Gary do anything? Doubt it.
It's only his second year.
Yeah, but dude, when you draft someone that high in the fucking draft like they did, he's got to show something in the first year. He showed nothing.
Yeah,
And that's my thing.
He got buried on the depth chart, so I mean, he could have been rubbed the wrong way too by a coach too, and they had such a hot start that they decided not to integrate him in. I mean, it's still a little too early, but I mean, it doesn't look good now at all.
Where we're at right now, it's
But
looking
I mean,
bad.
they also still need help with receiver and tight end too. So I mean, this tight end class in the draft isn't good at all. You're not getting a guy.
Free agency, you could probably get a decent tight end. But
Do you bring in Hooper?
Oh, that'd be.
I like Hooper and Rodgers together. That would be all right. But Hooper's the number one tight end in free agency, isn't he? Or,
It'll be him or Hunter Henry.
And Henry has really bad injury history.
I mean, but Hooper had one good year.
Yeah.
No, I
you can
know.
go back
I
and
don't like
forth on
Hooper
that.
at all. But personally, I think he's overrated. But
Well, I think only 2 teams will look at him, and that's the Packers and Patriots for both Henry and Hooper.
I mean, there's going to be a lot of teams that are looking.
Besides their own team trying to re-sign him.
And Hooper's another guy who's been indoor his whole career.
Yeah,
going up to Green Bay.
Yeah, that might be a hard sell there. But we'll see.
Money
See what
talks,
we can
man.
do.
Yeah.
Not that hard of a sell. Money talks, and if he wants
Play
to
with Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, that's a lot of incentives.
Yeah.
Line.
They're still probably the team to beat next year, just because there's so many question marks on each team. It's just, honestly, it's a coin flip who wins this division next year, if you ask me right now. And that includes the Lions. And that's a long shot, a really long shot for them. But you ask us, what was it? We're talking week 3 or 4. Look, like the Packers were going to run away with everything until they ran into the Vikings, but both of them ended up running into the Bears defense at some point. I know the first game of the year was boring as shit. It was like 9-6, the Packers over the Bears. Each team's got a really, I mean, the 2 best defenses, Packers and Bears. The Vikings are a little more balanced in that aspect, but then you got too many questions on their corners. Can they take over the division?
Yeah, does King take that next step?
Yeah. I don't know.
I think he did pretty good drafting Savage at safety. I think he had his moments, so they're not going to be searching too hard there. And
yeah,
Amos didn't look terrible.
Yeah. Savage overcommits a little bit too much. I thought they drafted him a little too high.
Right.
I mean, he was the one out of Maryland, right? First round.
Yeah.
He's been good. It's just, I
Give
don't
him
think he's a
another year
true
in that
coverage
defense,
guy.
though.
Yeah, he's a hitter, and he's got the speed, but we'll see how that goes. I mean, biggest thing, though, is I still think Aaron Rodgers has to take another step forward and take more command of this offense at times, because he didn't look the same this year to me that he has in
And
the past
I don't think
years.
him and LaFleur were ever on the same page. Even when they were looking good, I really don't think they
I
were
agree with you
ever
on that.
in lock like you should be with your starting
He didn't
quarterback.
look commanding on the field to me.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers has the worst body language I've ever seen out of a quarterback. So let's just get that straight out.
Let's
He's
get
always
one thing.
rolling his fucking
Just got
eyes.
that check.
He's always doing something, but he's great. So put the people around him, and he's gonna fucking do shit.
I don't wait.
Danica's fault.
It's not Danica's fault. You're an idiot.
God damn.
All right, let's move on to the last segment, because
You
I
want to
can't.
crack that 6-pack open?
Yeah, I need a beer after
All
talking
right,
to
let's
her
get it
over
going.
an hour.
This is the 6-pack of the week.
Well, cracking open that first one, who is the oldest player to ever play in an NFL game?
Adam Vinatieri, which
George Blanda,
okay.
48. So Adam Vinatieri
Yeah, if he plays this year.
Right. Who has the most wins as a coach in NFL history?
In NFL history?
Mm-hmm.
Why should I know this? Well, I obviously should know this, but I feel like it. I know this. Miami Dolphins. Don Shula.
Yep, got it. Who has the top passer rating in a single season?
Is it still Peyton Manning?
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers?
Yep. Who has the most field goals made in a single game?
In a single game? What the? Greg Zuerlein.
Rob Baronis, old Titans kicker, with 8.
Yeah.
Since the merger, who's the youngest player to catch a touchdown in NFL history? You should get this one, actually.
No, I probably shouldn't, so... I honestly don't know.
Juju Smith-Schuster.
Okay.
Who has the longest field goal in NFL history?
Prater.
Yep, 64 yards. And then the last one, who has the most interceptions in NFL history all time? With 81.
Woodson?
Paul Krause, old Minnesota Vikings safety.
All right.
So, well,
That was rough.
yeah, well, got him on a couple this week. I'm sure he'll bounce back next week. Thanks for listening this week, guys. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah, the links will be dropped below. And then join us next week. We're going to reveal our second mock draft. Our questions of the week will be focused around that. We're going to do a free agency kind of like predictor because it'll start the day after our podcast next week. And then we'll recap also the CBA, whether the players approved it or not. So we'll go over that. So join us next week.
Thanks, guys.